Hello everyone and welcome to the fifth part of Catching Up on JP, where today we're actually going to go into the main story and we're going to start out with the Arc 2's Prologue and Chapter 1. So let's get it right into the first bit. Main story Arc 2 Prologue. So we start out with a new character being introduced. One of the characters we actually saw at the very end of the Irayachi story, where it is indeed a character called Kagome, and she reminisces about that one time where she was once saved by Iroha from a familiar. So she's that kind of she's that person who went, "Oh, Iroha, I finally found you," rub hand, something like that. And in that scene, she somehow talks to an unseen person, someone that we don't actually see on screen, but we do get some voiceover from off screen, and Kagome talks about how terrible it is that these magic girls, they're doing at their best, they're giving their lives to fight against evil, to defeat all these witches, and all of these people that are being protected, they don't know about magic girls, so Kagome wants to do something about that. We also see that Kyubei is there, and Kyubei also wants Kagome to, of course, contract and become a magic girl because she's still a regular human. But Kagome says, nah, she just doesn't want to. And then Kyubei just gives a regular spiel about entropy and how important it is for the universe and all that kind of stuff, but Kagome doesn't really care. Meanwhile, back though with Team Mikazuki in the present, because that was basically a flashback, we see that Team Mikazuki is currently fighting some rumors, which is weird because they're not supposed to be any rumors, but they are fighting rumors, and it's definitely not because the developers wanted to recycle some old models. But they are fighting some rumors, and it turns out that suddenly, between all these rumors, there's this barrier with this giant monster suddenly in it, and this monster is something they haven't seen ever before. No one knows what it is. They can tell that it's not quite a rumor or an uasa, it's not quite a witch, it's maybe a little bit of both. We don't quite know what it is yet. I'm just gonna go ahead and call it Kimochi right away, because that's what it is, and it's gonna be easier if I just call it by its name. So yeah, that's the Kimochi that they're fighting. It is rather powerful. They basically, the entirety of Team Mikazuki needs to combine their power and fight together as one in order to defeat it. And in the end, Iroha is able to get the killing blow and defeat the Kimochi. But as they defeat the Kimochi, they notice something special, and suddenly this weird magical energy manifests itself around Iroha's wrist, and she gets a bracelet that suddenly attaches to her wrist, and this bracelet has one gemstone in it. But they also have absolutely no idea what is actually going on. Like, what is this bracelet? What is this gem? What was that monster they just fought? No one really knows anything. However, we cut back once again to Kagome, and it seems that Kagome has indeed begun writing about magic girls because she wants to write a book or just some stories about how magic girls are, just so that the bigger world will be able to get a view into the lives of magic girls, basically. So she's basically doing an Atkinson where she writes a documentary about magic girls. And she talks to the figure again that she was talking about earlier, and she calls it Ri-chan, and I can basically already tell you about it. It's that she has a little doll with her. It's like a mandrake doll, and she does like ventriloquy with it and like talks as if she was the doll. So maybe she has some sort of split personality disorder where that she has like a second personality come out as her like doing ventriloquy with her doll or something. I don't know, it's a bit weird, but maybe a bit more on that later. Main story Arc 2 Chapter 1. So we start out Chapter 1. It is quite a lot of stuff going on here, so I'm going to leave a bunch of stuff out just to make sure that this video doesn't get to like an hour worth of length. But we're going to start out once again with Kagome, who keeps writing about magic girls, and she's currently writing about the Doppel system, the automatic purification system, as they are calling it. However, meanwhile, we then cut back to Iroha, who is wondering that, wait a second, at some point aren't grief seeds going to run out? I mean, we do have the purification system, but still, it might be a problem if grief seeds ever run out, although I don't know why exactly they're this worried about grief seeds, because, yeah, they have the Doppel system. What does it actually matter too much? However, they still don't know really what is going on with the bracelet or with that monster, and they still want to try and figure out what's going on. We then cut back to the Magus base, or rather the new Magus base, which is somewhere in the mountains near some satellite or something, where Toka, Nemu, Mifuyu, they all are there, and they wonder how they could expand the Doppel system, the automatic purification system, to other places, maybe even to the world. They kind of still want to go through with that plan that they originally had as Magus, so they're wondering how to do all of that, and Toka, of course, goes, we could just do what we did as Magus, and once again abuse magic girls and witches to do it, and Mifuyu just goes, oh Toka, you're doing that again, ha ha ha, and everyone just sort of has a hearty laugh and like, ha ha, Toka's trying to kill everyone again. Well, that's just what she does, and no one really seems to care. Toka. So also at the same time, there's this meeting going on with all of the big leaders and some other magic girls of the Kamihamagia Union. For example, Kanagi is there, and Yachio and Hinano, basically like the big three, as you would call them. And they talk also about how they could maybe go on about expanding the doppel system to the rest of the world. However, they also talk about, once again, the bracelets and the gem and the monster and all stuff, and they keep going like, oh, we have no idea what's going on. But they want to, they notice more energy signatures have popped up around the area, and they kind of want to investigate them at some point later, if they don't know when. So we then get a little scene with Ryo and Hinano. By the way, there's basically going to be like some small teams. They're going to split off and do their own thing. For example, we're going to have a team with Ryo, Ikumi, sometimes Hinano, and some other old black feathers and white feathers, like for example the Neis, like Mifuyu. So those kind of characters, they will often like form a team together, and I'm just going to call it the Old Feathers team because they're going to happen multiple times. So keep in mind, Ryo, Ikumi, the Neis, Mifuyu is the Old Feathers team. So, however, Ryo and Hinano, they're currently talking, and they talk about how KARIN is currently depressed. She keeps staying at school because she doesn't want to worry her grandma, and KARIN is saying like, oh, I don't want to worry my grandma, so I'm basically just staying in school until they kick me out, basically. And Ikumi is also at school, and she's talking to KARIN, and KARIN is like really depressed because she can't believe that Alina was a sad person. And Ikumi tells her a bit more about Alina, the way she was as a part of Magius, but KARIN kind of just ignores all of that because she doesn't want to hear anything about that. Instead, KARIN just talks about how Alina was angry at KARIN not improving, and so KARIN says that if I improve my art enough, maybe then Alina is going to come back. And so Ikumi then leaves KARIN alone as KARIN remembers the times that Alina was nice to her and gave her some strawberry milk, and KARIN starts crying. We then cut back to Mitamas, where Mitama and Kanagi are talking about some new material girls that have been going around the town. And we also know that just in a scene earlier, Ryo, while talking to Hinano, they also saw some other material girls running around, and Ryo, she got a picture of them, so maybe they'll be able to see the picture. But first they're talking about it at Mitamas, about those new material girls, and they also quickly mentioned that the Mirror Witch has calmed down because apparently the Mirror Witch was throwing a fit or something. Maybe that's going to tie into the mirror story that I'm also going to be covering at some point later, I don't know when. But also Team Mikasuki and Ryo arrive, and Ryo shows them the picture that she took. And do you know how Ryo has this magical power, this innate magic that she got from her wish, where every time she shoots a photo, she always gets the perfect shot. She always gets the number 100% perfect, absolute shot. And it's a blurry picture that she got somehow. What is going on with your magic, Ryo? Wasn't it supposed to be a perfect picture? No, the picture's blurry, and they can't quite make out what's actually going on. Fucking main story writing, dude. So Mitama, while everyone is right there, Mitama just goes, hey, Iroha, let me take a look at the bracelet. So Mitama takes a look at the bracelet, and she notices that there's absolutely gargantuan amounts of energy, like magical energy in that bracelet, and she can't really adjust it in any way. But she says that maybe she can like sort of try and interact with it, sort of like poke it with a stick and see what happens. And so she like tries to dive into sort of the memories of that gem. And what happens is this just causes Iroha to suddenly get a vision. And in that vision that Iroha gets, she sees some unknown creature that we don't really understand what it is. And that creature tells Iroha that that creature wants Iroha to look for it and to take the creature and to drag it along, basically. And also the creature says that it trusts Iroha with her life, and also that if Iroha wants to give the bracelet or a gem to someone else, she basically has to trust that person with their life, and then she'll be able to do that. And then the vision just sort of ends, and they all go, oh, that's a bit weird, we don't know what's going on here, we need to do more investigation. So then the team decides that in order to gather more information, they go and go back to where they initially fought at Kimochi. However, they find some random members of Promised Blood that I talked about from the Crimson Resolve event. Go check that one out as well, it's extremely important. And the Promised Blood members, they say that they are looking for that big energy signature that used to be here just a while ago. And they notice that that energy signature is now coming from Iroha's bracelet instead. So they just sort of start fighting between them, and then Hikaru appears as well. Hikaru throws out her Magia, the Hikaru Corp. Then Yuna appears as well. It's a bit of a scuffle, a bit of a back and forth, and at first it sort of comes to a draw, but at some point Ui decides to run off and get help. Why doesn't she just use a phone? I don't know why she can't just call someone, but yeah, she just runs off, and somehow Team Kamode are in the area, and they come along, and then Promised Blood decides that it's kind of not worth fighting, and they just back off and run away. We then get into the cut in to another scene where we see that there is this new adjuster in town called Livia, and she's adjusting Hikaru, so apparently Promised Blood members are getting adjusted by this new Livia character. We also see in some really mysterious scene that there's an unknown character that is talking about this clock that is 5 minutes away from Armageddon, and it's ticking closer. It's only 4 minutes to Armageddon now. Oh, what's going on there? I don't know. We're gonna get to that way later, I guess. And then we also see in this very last scene that there's 2 unknown magical girls that we don't know about, like faceless magical girls. They've suddenly, somehow, I don't know how, stumbled upon the base of Promised Blood in Kamihama. And Yuna is there, and she straight up fucking murders one of them. And then they tie the other one up and go, yeah, you just watched us kill one of your guys, now spit out some information. And meanwhile, Yuna also says to throw the corpse of the dead magical girl somewhere where other people can find it, just so basically send a message to Kamihama Maga Union that they're not fucking around. Ice cold. So then we get to the next section of the chapter where Iroha is out shopping together with Ui, and they somehow manage to bump into the Tokime clan, which once again is also from another event. Watch the Green Jasper Diviners summary for that one. So the Tokime clan members, of course, are Chiharu, Sunao, and Shizuka being the leader. And it turns out that currently they're trying to pay at the shop, and they're trying to pay with electronic money, basically with a credit card, but they just can't get it to work because they're really bad with technology. So Ida comes in and is like, oh, I'm also really bad with technology, wanna be best friends? And they go, yay, let's be best friends. So immediately they're basically best friends, and they decide that they're going to hang out later. Because Tokime clan goes, yeah, we're new to the city, could you help us out, because you seem to be native here. So then the rest of Team Mikasuki, not Iroha and Ui, I think they might be doing off some other stuff, or like Yachu, I don't know exactly who. But yeah, I think it's like just Felicia, Tsuruno, maybe Sana is there, and they basically just lead the rest of Tokime clan around the city. And there's a whole bunch of slice of life stuff going on with, oh, isn't it funny that Shizuka has no idea about technology? She thinks trains are snakes. She thinks that her money is being stolen when she puts it into machine because it just disappears. It's black magic. Yeah, so that kind of stuff for like a few scenes, which is funny, but not for this summary. Sorry, guys. So we also at the same time see that Iroha, while all this is going on, she goes and visits the Magus base again. Once again, this weird like satellite dish in the mountains or something. We're gonna get back to it later as well, like why it's important that that's sort of what the base is right now. But she visits that base to basically say hi to Nemu and Toka, and Sakurako is really sad because Ui isn't there, and because Ui went to do something else, and Sakurako is always really sad when it's not the 4 of them, because Sakurako always wants it to be the 4 of them. So they're talking about the bracelet, because of course they're going to talk about the bracelet, like, oh, what can we do about the bracelet? They still have no idea what to do about it, but Nemu also notes that she wanted to test if that bracelet could be part of a rumor, and if it has some similarities, and she mentions that there's not supposed to really be any rumors still around. I mean, yeah, there's Sakurako, but apart from Sakurako, there's not supposed to be any rumors around, so it's really weird that there still are rumors around. However, Nemu does mention that she made one last rumor before she fought Alina. However, she has no idea where that rumor went, and she doesn't really tell us anything about that other than, hey, you know, while I was doing stuff, I was off-screen doing some other stuff, sort of like retconning the past, because main story writing, we can just retcon whatever the fuck we want. So they just retcon that during the fight against Alina, she made another rumor somehow. Don't question it. Don't question main story. The writing is definitely not terrible. So in the meantime, while all this is also happening, there's a lot of cutback between a lot of different scenes. This is also basically the way that main story arc 2 is written, in that there's a lot of different teams doing their own things and usually just cutting back and forth between all these different teams all the time. So we're going to cut back to the rest of Team Mikasuki, who are currently still leading the Tokime clan members around the city, doing some more slice of life stuff. However, they managed to pick up the signature of another Kimochi, another monster, and they also, in the middle of that, realized that, wait a second, we're all magical girls, yay. I don't know why they didn't realize it sooner. I mean, once they say, aren't you guys magical girls? They go, oh, it's right, you have rings. Why didn't they look at the rings to begin with? Why did they have to be told they're magical girls and then look at the rings? I don't know about that. Once again, main story writing is great. Don't worry about it. But yeah, they mentioned that they noticed another energy signature in the area, which is also, I think, the energy signature that was talked about at the big meeting way earlier in this chapter. And they go and, of course, they want to try and see what is going on with that. And they indeed find the monster with some more rumors around. And they have a little bit of a fight. And in the end, Shizuka actually manages, with the latent strength of the Tokime, to defeat the Kimochi. And, of course, she also gets a bracelet with one gem in it. So I don't know why that is going on. Tsuruno is actually kind of smart in main story. If you watch the anime, you might not know that, but Tsuruno is actually kind of smart in main story, and she realizes that, wait a second, these characters are pretty strong. They must have gotten some adjustment, but probably not from Mitama, because maybe she would have heard about that. But it seems like there's some other adjusters going around in Kamihama, and maybe that's where they're getting adjusted, and maybe that's also where Promise Blood is getting adjusted. Tsuruno is someone really smart. So while all of this is going on, once again, we cut back once again to Magius. But not actually the Magius, but other two old Magius members, the Team White Feathers I was talking about earlier, where we have Mifuyu, Ryo, Ikumi, the Nese, and they notice that there are some old black feathers going around the city, talking to magical girls, talking to people who used to be in Magius, and they're saying, hey, we're starting a new Magius, our own Magius with blackjack and hookers. Want to join? So what is going on there? Well, they realize that something must be going on with Toka and Nemu, because of course they used to be the heads of Magius, so they want to check out what is going on there. But before they can make it all the way to Toka and Nemu, we're cutting to Toka and Nemu, where there's already stuff going on there. And what is going on there? Well, there's two new characters who are confronting Toka and Nemu, and they're basically saying, hey, want to start another Magius operation with us? You could be our leaders. So these two new characters, they're Hagumu and Shigure, and they just want to start a new Magius, and they want Toka and Nemu to lead them. However, Toka and Nemu, they don't really care. They just say, no, we're kind of done with that. We're working on salvation over here, right? We're doing the salvation. If you want salvation, just join us. You don't need Magius for that, just join us. And as the Kamihama Maga Union is the place to go. And they just sort of go, yeah, who cares about salvation? We want to be magical supremacists. You know that, like that Nazi stuff you were doing, Toka? We want to do that too. That's literally what they're saying. They didn't literally say Nazi, but they did indeed say, hey, we want to be magical supremacists. So why not do that again with us, Toka? And Toka sort of just says, no, I'm done with that. I'm done being magical supremacists. So they can't get to sort of a conclusion with that. However, before anything really happens there, we're cutting once again to another scene, because like I said, that's what this main story does. It just keeps cutting between scenes. It's not gonna get any different from any point here until maybe the end of this arc too. So we're cutting back once again to Tokime clan, and together with the rest of Team Mikazuki, right after they defeated that Kimochi, and they said that they talked a bit with Kyubei, and they found out together with Kyubei's help that it would potentially be possible, if they gathered the gems of these Kimochi, that they might be able to bring that doppel system, to bring the purification system to other places, and of course, if possible, Tokime village first, that way they would be able to spread the double system with that full bracelet, but they need to have all the gems. They need to basically defeat all the Kimochi, get all the gems, and then they would have control over the double system to spread it around the other surrounding villages to other cities and so on. Okay, that's the end of this section, but here's another section this is the third section out of 4, and we cut back once again to Toka and Nemu and the Shigure and Hagumu. And we, of course, figure out that they want to, like I said earlier, they wanted to find this new Magus, and they called it a Neo-Magus because they are very inventive, and Neo just means new. So yeah, they mentioned that they were going to find Neo-Magus, and some other people, by the way, like not in story, I mean like some other people reading main story have basically taken to call Neo-Magus Negius. because Negius is easier to say than Neomagius. But I'm just going to call them Neomagius from now on, just to make it clear, because if too many people use too many abbreviations, people who don't know what those abbreviations mean will get confused, and I don't want to confuse people, so I'm just going to keep calling them Neomagius. So once again, Toka and Nemo, they just keep refusing, and Hagumu and Shigure, they kind of are full of it, and they just sort of go, well, if you don't want to do it willingly, we're just going to grab you, because you can't transform. And they just sort of grab them and run off, and Sakurako is there, I think Iroha is there as well, and Yachu, I think, is also there, and they just sort of go after them, of course, because you can't just grab our lollies and run away. So they go after them. However, they notice that right outside the base, there are already a whole bunch of Neomagius Black Feathers stationed, and they fight off Iroha and Sakurako Yachiyo, but they don't defeat them, but at least they keep them at bay, while Hagumu and Shigure, they try and run away and make a break for it. However, while all this is going on, at basically the exact same time, Promised Blood arrives at exactly that scene. So now we're all in the mountains next to that big satellite dish, where we have Promised Blood, we have Neomagius, and we have Iroha Yachiyo and Sakurako, with somehow Toka and Nemu sort of just being yanked off somewhere. And Promised Blood are there, and they basically just start a fight right there. They start fighting against Neomagius, they start fighting against our main characters. Neomagius and our main characters, they just sort of say, okay, let's just do a quick truce, let's not fight each other, let's fight Promised Blood first. So everyone just tries to fight Promised Blood first. However, unbeknownst to everyone, but Promised Blood themselves, because it was their plan, they split off two of their strongest characters, Juri and Ao, and they are both on a secret mission just nearby, like a few hundred meters away in the mountains, where they have detected a nearby Kimochi, and they're basically going to fight that Kimochi while everyone else is distracted fighting each other. How only they know that there's a Kimochi there and our main characters don't know that, I don't know. Maybe they did know or didn't quite get to fight it, I don't know. However, it's basically guaranteed at this point that Juri and Ao are going to defeat the Kimochi, and they will do a little bit later, because everyone else is currently in a big fight with each other, big mudslinging battle in a few hundred meters away next to the satellite dish. So, okay, the Kamihama Maya Union, well, at least the current members that are there, like Iroha, Sakurako, and Yachiyo, they all call for reinforcements. I think they might actually use phones this time, because why would you use phones? So they call for reinforcements, and I think it's some other characters that are already nearby. I think it's Team Old White Feathers, or Team Old Feathers, as I called them earlier. They're in the vicinity, and they get called over. However, as the fight is going on, our main characters, while the reinforcements are coming, are getting steamrolled. Hagumu and Shigure, they're getting absolutely steamrolled, and a lot of Neomagius feathers do actually end up dead at the end of this fight. However, our main characters, they're all fine, because Mifuyu and, like I said, the rest of Team Old Feathers, they jump in, as well as Team Tokime. They're also around in the area, and Team Tokime also come nearby, and they save the main characters just as they're about to die. Couldn't they have arrived a little bit quicker and saved the faceless guys? Well, I guess it's okay if the faceless magical girls die, because, you know, they're faceless, but at least our main characters are safe, yay. It's really hard to be a main character. It's really hard to be a background character in this universe, I guess. So the fight is now a lot more even, with the reinforcements having come in, and Iroha is trying to talk to Yuna, and is basically telling them like, hey, we don't want to get people killed. Can't we just, you know, hug it out? Power, friendship, happiness, yay, rainbows. And Yuna just goes, no, I want to kill you. And you might have noticed from when I was talking about the Crimson Resolve event that Yuna was apparently like this very friendly, nice leader, kind of almost, who wanted to minimize death, who wanted to end the war with all of her power, and was even willing to give up herself just to end the war. But now in main story, she just wants to basically kill everyone. So yeah, she just goes, no, I'm gonna kill you. And they just keep fighting at this point. And they, because of Kanagi also being there and being able to read some minds, they figure out that something went wrong in Futatsuki, and Yuna takes this opportunity and basically tells them her sad backstory about what happened in Futatsuki City, how in Futatsuki City the witches, they all went away because of what happened in Kamihama, basically everything that happened in Crimson Resolve, and basically that Kamihama is at fault for all these people dying in Futatsuki, even though they could have just, you know, not killed each other and had this alliance that they formed earlier, you know? Whatever. So they basically go, well, you're the bad guys, Kamihama's the bad guys, so that's why it's fine for us to kill you guys. And they basically, once again, sort of keep fighting. However, before the fight can continue much longer, Shizuka basically just goes, shut up everyone, you guys are all idiots, and lays down a verbal smackdown on everyone, mostly on Yuna, and basically talks Yuna down. And however, in the meantime of all of this, the Kimoichi does indeed fall to Juri and returns to the rest of Promised Blood. So with Yuna getting talked down and with the fighting being a lot more even now, actually kind of in favor of the Kamehama Maga Union, Promised Blood sort of decides to call it a day and they want to back off. However, while they are getting ready to back off, KARIN arrives at the scene because she heard that there were some Wings of Magus, or she heard that some Magus stuff was going on at the satellite tower. So she goes, Magus, Alina, whoa! And she heads over to the satellite dish, and she just runs into Promised Blood while they're on their way out. I think she runs into Juri more specifically, and she just goes, hey guys, I don't know who you are, but do you know Alina? Do you know the Magus? Do you know Wings of Magus? And Juri just sort of goes, wait a second. You're our enemy! And then they just sort of clobber KARIN and they kidnap KARIN. Good job, KARIN, you've done really well. Too cute, but not too intelligent. Very much not intelligent at all. Sorry, KARIN. So, KARIN is being kidnapped, however, at least in the vicinity we have Team Kamore, and I think some other characters are there, and they notice that KARIN was being kidnapped, so at least they know about that, and maybe they're going to rescue her in the next few scenes. Don't worry about that, we're going to be a rescue squad. So, the rest of the characters want to keep talking, but once again, we need to keep cutting back to other scenes, because like I said, we're going to keep cutting to other scenes. We cut back to Kagome, who is making her way into Kamehama because she wants to get closer to Iroha. She wants the Iroha. And she also wants to get basically interviews with the main characters, apparently, to write more stuff about their lives. And we also get another very mysterious shot. You know, earlier that shot of the clock showing 5 minutes or 4 minutes to Armageddon. We once again now see a shot like this, but we now actually see the character who was talking about this. It's the character called Rabi. And Rabi is talking to Olivia about this, how there's this impending doom that is about to happen because so many magical girls are gathering in Kamehama. And this will mean that at some point there'll be this giant disaster. And since this, I guess I can say that a lot of people think that this is going to be the meat of Arc 2, sort of like how the Magus story was the meat of Arc 1, but the Magus didn't really come in until like Chapter 6. Everyone just now sort of goes, well, the chapter is called The 100 Evils, while the first arc was actually called The Happy Witch, which was Eve. So with this information, everyone just goes, okay, wait a second, everything that we see right now, all of these characters fighting each other, that's probably just going to be like the intro bit, and then something terrible is going to happen, and then the 100 Evils are going to be like the meat, maybe somewhere around Chapter 5, and later that's when everything is going to go down. At least that's the theories. However, if those theories are indeed correct, that is what the arc is actually about, and everything right now is just set dressing, then you can at least say, called it, that we called it this early. Hey, and if we're completely wrong, what does it matter? We're just throwing stuff around anyway. However, now we get to the actual last section, where once again we cut back to the scene where Promised Blood was about to retreat, and Kyubey is actually just there and says, hold up, before you guys leave, I want to talk to you guys. And Kyubey just sort of mentions what was going on, and Kyubey mentions that at the end when Eve was defeated, little Kyubey, us, became the new core, basically, of Eve, and became the center of the Doppel system. However, in the Doppel system, because it gathers impurities from magical girls, there's a lot of like actual emotional energy that was stored inside the Doppel system, but little Kyubey can't store emotions because Kyubeys can't into emotions, and that's why when little Kyubey became the core of the Doppel system, all that emotional energy just sort of scattered around Kamehama, and then just sort of coalesced into these kimochi, because kimochi in English just means emotions. Once again, basically like uwasa is just the Japanese word for rumor. Now we have kimochi, which is just the Japanese word for emotion. So yeah, it has formed into, I think it is 8 emotions, 8 kimochi, that are now somewhere in Kamehama, and Kyubey also just sort of says like, I got you guys here on purpose because I want to test the doppel system, and I just want to see what happens. I just want to see what happens when you guys kill each other. Yay. So everyone's sort of mad at Kyubey for basically orchestrating a battle royale, but everyone just sort of also just says, well, we're going to deal with that, and just sort of leaves. So of course, Promise Blood, they don't really give a shit, they leave. Neo-Magius are mostly dead. I mean, Shigure and Hagumu are around, but everyone else is basically dead, and we also have the Kamehama Manga Union, and we have Team Tokime, and they actually decide to team up because they kind of want to do the same. They kind of both want to use the doppel system to spread it around other areas. I mean, Promise Blood also wants that, but Promise Blood wants to do that by killing everyone, which is not very nice. So Tokime and Kaimu for now are friends, they're allies, yay. So that's basically how that sort of fight ends. However, they talk a little bit more, like the Magius, like Toka and Nemu, they're fine again after being thrown around like ragdolls for a bit, and they're fine again, and they talk a little bit more about the last rumor that Nemu made, and it turns out that this last rumor that was being created had the purpose of spreading knowledge of magical girls around the world, because Nemu, while she was fighting Alina, she thought she was going to die, and so she wanted to make a rumor that would basically carry on the legacy of magical girls and spread it around the world, spread that knowledge. And that rumor somehow fused with Kagome. They don't know that yet, but we find out that basically that rumor somehow got together with Kagome, and Kagome is basically like Uwasa Tsuruno, like half human, half rumor now. Cool. So we once cut back now that all of this fighting is over. We see that Mikazuki, they're all sort of stressed out and they're on their way back home. However, they run into Mitama, who is currently having to deal with Livia, and Livia being the Black Adjuster, the Dark Adjuster. I mean, she also has like two other adjusters around, but it's mostly just Livia, like she's the leader of them. The other two adjusters that are around are Yozuru and Sudachi, who can't talk correctly, and it is revealed indeed that Livia is the Mitama, the teacher for Mitama's adjusting. So Livia taught Mitama everything that she knows about adjusting. However, she's also really, really disappointed in Mitama because Mitama broke her neutrality, but she sort of says, hey Mitama, if you can join us and become a traveling adjuster and we'll forgive you for breaking neutrality. But Mitama just sort of says, nah, I like it here. I like my friends. These are the magical girls that I want to lewd, and sort of just points at Iroha. And Livia just goes, I understand. Anyway, that last part might have been made up. Anyway, so then we cut once again, of course, back to where KARIN is being interrogated, because don't forget, KARIN was kidnapped and she was being interrogated by Judy and I think some other PB goons as well. I think maybe I was there as well, I don't know. However, so Judy is interrogating KARIN. However, they sort of very quickly realized that KARIN is just some idiot that was caught in a crossfire, and KARIN doesn't really know anything. So they decided to just let her go and sort of go, whatever, KARIN, you can leave, just get out. However, just as KARIN is about to be let go and leave, KARIN's rescue party arrives. The Team Kamore and Team Old White Feathers. Once again, it's Ryo, it's Ikumi. I don't think Mifu is there, but the Neis are also there, and they all arrive at the scene and they go, we're going to help you, KARIN. And KARIN didn't even need help anyway, but because KARIN was so cute, they're going to let her go anyway. However, it does indeed get to a fight, so Judy gets overwhelmed by the power of friendship on the side of our Kamehama Manga Union girls, and Judy wants to flee. However, as Judy wants to flee, she wants to cover her escape by shooting a wall of fire aimed at Reina and Kaede, specifically Kaede. And KARIN heroically jumps in, pushes Kaede aside, and takes the full wall of fire to the face, which causes KARIN to catch on fire and burn up. During all of this, while she's taking lethal damage, KARIN is thinking about Alina again, about how she is so sad that she disappointed Alina and how she wants Alina to come back. And of course, all of this leads to KARIN unleashing her doppel MacDougal on the scene, and the doppel lashes out at Judy, and Judy sort of goes, whoa. So Judy has now for the first time seen a doppel and know that the tales were true, that doppels do indeed exist, as KARIN is burning up on the ground. However, the doppel also basically saves KARIN's life. And don't worry guys, KARIN is not dying, although she's basically a stake now. I'm sorry guys. So Judy feels really bad about all of this, and she actually gives them a grief seed. I don't know why. They kind of want to kill each other. Basically, every single scene that has promised blood in them, they basically go on about how much they're going to kill everyone, and then they just suddenly say, okay, here's a grief seed, because she feels bad. I don't know, just don't question the writing. It's definitely consistent in every single scene, and definitely not has major problems, especially with promised blood. So Judy gives them a grief seed because she feels bad, and then they just sort of back off, and everyone is fine again, except for KARIN, who's currently not looking too great. Had a bit much of a suntan, I guess. So we then once again cut back to Team Sakurako. Well, it's Iroha, Nemu, Toka, Ui, like Sakurako and the 4 girls. Team Sakurako. There's so many different teams that are going on in different constellations. It's Team Sakurako now, okay? And they happen to run into Kagome, and they figure out that Kagome is indeed that half-rumor, because Nemu can smell the rumor. It's rumor, I smell rumor on you. So they figure out that Kagome is indeed that half-rumor, and that she wants to record the struggles of the magical girls, and Kagome sort of gets the go-ahead to tag along with Team Mikasuki for a bit. And then we get a bunch of small scenes where all of the major factions, they sort of regroup. We have the Promised Blood once again talking about how they're going to kill everyone. We have Neo-Magus, who have been killed everyone and are basically almost completely dead. And so the last few surviving members of Neo-Magus, they just sort of leave because they don't want to die. And so it's only Hagumu and Shigure who are basically the 2 only last surviving members of Team Neo-Magus. Didn't last very long for them. I make a lot of jokes often on how Hagumu and Shigure are basically the 2 most incompetent characters that have ever been created in manga record. Way more incompetent than the Nes could ever be. And I'm not kidding. They had their big Neo-Magus alliance for like 10 minutes, failed to recruit Toka and Nemu, failed to abduct them, and then got everyone killed, and then broke up off immediately. Well, we're gonna see how the story evolves from this point on, but we can already see that they're very much the absolute opposite of competent. We also see a Team Tokime who is like, well, we're going to not be depressed about all of this. We're going to keep using the power of friendship to do good things. We're going to help each other, and basically their team optimism, yay. And then of course we also see Team Kamehama Magia Union as they talk about everything that has happened and how they're going to make sure that the doppel system does not get into the hands of Promised Blood. And we also see how Kagome is going to now keep recording the struggles of magical girls as part of Team Mikasuki. And then we get one final scene before the chapter ends. And in this final scene, we see that KARIN is being wheeled into the hospital with major burn wounds, and in that hospital, we get a very quick shot of Alina. Yeah, that was like, hope you guys enjoyed this. See you guys next time. Hit that subscribe button.